Capitol and efforts to preserve our threatened democracy. That's later. But first this morning, Governor Ron DeSantis came to town yesterday. He was planning to deliver a highly scripted news conference at the local health department office, bashing Joe Biden over treatments for COVID-19. But things didn't go as planned.
Why am I being handcuffed?
Reset for the press conference.
Why am I being handcuffed?
Because we're asking you.
Why am I being handcuffed?
Mr. Frazier,
I have not done anything to anyone. Why am I being
can we
handcuffed?
call Mr. Frazier, please?
Local activist Ben Frazier, along with a few other activists, showed up at the health department demanding to speak to the governor about his response to the pandemic. That never happened. Frazier was arrested for trespassing. Ben Frazier of the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville has since gone viral around the country after this controversial arrest. He's on the line now with more on what happened and what's next. Ben Frazier, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good to talk to you. As we talk to Ben Frazier, we want your calls. It's 549-2937. Give us a call. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax. So, Ben Frazier, you and some other activists showed up yesterday at the Duval County Health Department where the governor had publicly noticed he was going to be holding a press event. You aren't technically a member of the credentialed press locally, although you are a former news anchor and a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. So what was your plan when you showed up at the news conference? What were you hoping to do?
We were simply hoping to confront the governor about his ridiculous policies as it relates to the pandemic. First off, I would like to say thank you for having us on the show, Ms. Ross. And I'd also like to say, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.
Now, what do you mean? Were you taken to jail? You were handcuffed and removed from the premises, but were you booked into jail or released on your own recognizance?
We were released on our own recognizance. We were, in fact, arrested. And I think it's probably due to the governor's attitude that I was arrested. You know, the right to peacefully protest is part of who we are as a nation. We think it's an important way for citizens to enact change. Protest is an indispensable part of our democracy. Public expression is critical to a functioning democracy. Unfortunately, Ron DeSantis is cracking down on peaceful protest. It is unfortunate that his top priority appears to be criminalizing the right to protest.
Now, let me ask you, Ben, on the video that we all watched yesterday, one of the staffers for the governor said to you and the other activists there, we're happy to set up a meeting at another time for you to meet with Governor DeSantis. A spokesperson for the governor says that the press conference was only for credentialed media, that every citizen has the right to protest in public places, but not to trespass in a secured facility in order to disrupt a press briefing. What's your response to that, and also their offer to have you meet with the governor or his staff at another time?
This is the same governor who advanced an HB1 law that was directed and targeting Black community organizers and Black-led organizations, an attempt to restrain, inhibit, and stifle our protest. Now he turns around and tells us that he'll meet with us. Sure, we'll follow that possibility, but the offer yesterday was absolute hogwash. Nobody is crazy. You can fool some of the people some of the time. You can't fool all of the people all the time.
So you didn't
doesn't want to hear from us.
You didn't take
Will
that on
we
good
sit
faith.
down and talk with him? I say yes. Let's get the invitation. Let's put it on our radar. Let's sit down and talk, because so far he's been missing in action on this whole pandemic issue for the past month.
And certainly that was why you and other activists showed up to press him on the decisions he's been making in his response to the spiking variant, the Omicron variant the lack of testing available for people who are worried about the virus, and so forth. And certainly the reporters that were there yesterday were planning to talk to him about that as well. We'll go to your calls in a moment at 549-2937. What are your next steps in this flap? Do you plan to file any legal action over what you claim is an unlawful arrest?
We think that this is another example of the governor attempting to stifle our First Amendment rights, which are fundamental to a functioning democracy. We already are suing the governor with regards to HB1. We know that he's trying to criminalize the right to protest in the state of Florida. But there's something even more important than our right to protest, and that is the lives of Floridians. This is not about Protestant politics. This is not about Republicans and Democrats, not about race, black and white. This is about right and wrong. This is about the precious lives of aunts and uncles and granddads who are suffering and dying because of this pandemic. And what we're saying is that when politicians begin to put politics ahead of human life, then we, the people, must take a stand.
But Ben, let me ask you though, do you plan to take any legal action yourself over your arrest?
We intend on consulting with legal consultants, I suppose you could say. We've got some lawyers that we've been talking to, and we'll make a decision in terms of how to proceed. Of course, the state attorney has to make up her mind whether she wants to prosecute Ben Frazier on this flimsy charge of trespassing. Nobody else.
Yeah, you were the only one arrested. You are accused of trespassing. You know, we did speak with the First Amendment Foundation, and yes, the health department is a public building. At the same time, the First Amendment Foundation of Florida says technically it's a gray area as to whether or not you had the right to do what you did. People are interpreting the events differently. So is this what you would call good trouble, I guess? The late Georgia Congressman John Lewis was famous for that phrase, for sometimes going outside the strict letter of the law in order to raise awareness about oppression or problems with people achieving their full civil rights in this society. Is that how you see yesterday's actions?
In the words of Dr. King in a letter from Birmingham jail, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Remember, what we're talking about is the right to peacefully protest. Underline peacefully, not like those idiots last January 6th. John Lewis and others crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. That was a disruption. The state police had told them not to do it. They crossed the bridge anywhere. It was for voting rights. And we're all a better country because of it. Sometimes we are compelled to stand up, and throughout American history, Americans have done precisely that. This is about democracy. This isn't about black and white. They dumped the tea into Boston Harbor for a reason. Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me justice." He said it for a reason. This is about democracy, and that's what we're standing up for.
Lots of calls for Ben Frazier of the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. He was arrested yesterday after trying to speak to Governor Ron DeSantis at his news conference at the Duval County Health Department. Because of what happened, the governor ended up scrubbing the news conference and holding it somewhere else. Let's go to a few calls. Wells on the south side. Hi, Wells. You're on the air.
Good morning, Melissa, and good morning, Ben. When
Good morning.
we look at Ron DeSantis, and I was at the conference yesterday because we've asked him to come to town to discuss his policies over and over and over again, and he has refused to do that. But really, his job is to keep us divided so that we're not dealing with the real issues here, like healthcare, housing, mass incarceration, institutionalized racism, the lack of police accountability, what we're going to do about climate change, defending Native American lands from fossil fuel corporations, the removing of Confederate statues.
Well, but what?
his
No offense,
attack
but
on
what?
Black history.
Okay, the Native
Yes.
American issue, is that really a salient issue in Florida in the way it is in, say, the Dakotas? I mean, let's keep it on topic. Is all I'm saying.
There was a pipeline. There was a pipeline that probably nobody knows about that has been put through Native American lands here.
Okay.
Not too far from where we are right now. But the fact of the matter is, Ron DeSantis is a tool of corporate America, and his thing is not to address issues. His thing is to go against the grain. His thing is to continue to divide black and white, just like Trump was doing, because the issues, they cannot address the genuine issues that face American people today. The 99% of us, they are not going to face those issues. They're not going to do anything about those issues. And we need to build a mass movement to fight, to bring about the change that is necessary in this country. Ron DeSantis, like I said, is a mere object that is being used to divide us, and we must challenge him at every turn. We are continuing
Thank
to
you,
ask
Wells.
him
Not
to
to
come
cut-
down here to discuss this with us.
Not to cut you off, that explains why the activists showed up yesterday. That's their point of view. Let's go to Mark in St. Augustine. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, good morning. I certainly support Ben Frazier's right to voice his opinion and peaceably protest and all that. But I guess my question would be, if I'm not a member of the press or anything like that, if I would have shown up down there yesterday and said, hey, I demand to be in here, I want to talk to the governor, would anybody be surprised when they said, sorry, you're not a credentialed press person, you can speak your issues to an aide, and if we deem it important, we can set up a meeting. But I just find that I have a hard time, although I support his right to protest wherever he would please, if that's not the right time or place to do it, then I guess I kind of understand them removing him from that particular setting.
Okay,
I know
Mark.
it's upsetting, but I guess I get that.
Mark, thanks. Ben Frazier, your thoughts on that argument?
Bottom line, folks, it's a public building. It's a public property. It's a public official. So when do we reach this certain norm in this country where you can't simply speak to the people you've elected? No, sir. That's not the way this democracy works. It says that we can hold our political officials accountable. How do we do it? Shutting us down, telling us we can't talk, telling us when to talk? No, sirree. This is not some banana republic. This is not some European place where some dictator is running things. This is America. We don't handle business like that here. People can speak out. It's called the First Amendment, and we're going to stand on it. You don't have to be a constitutional lawyer to know that you have a right to assemble and to protest. We know what happened at Boston Harbor. They threw the tea into the water. They were angry. They made their voices heard. And that, sir, is what Americans do.
Alan on the
We
south
did
side.
it
Alan,
peacefully.
sure. Alan on the south side. Go ahead, Alan.
Hey, Ben. Really appreciate what you did yesterday, and wanted to let you know thoughts and prayers are going out for you, brother. I wanted to make a couple of comments. One, you were peaceful. The January 6th people that stormed the Capitol that were violent, they were claiming the same thing. Well, we have a right to be here. Oh, but when you do it peacefully, you don't have a right to be there? What? And then also just with Dr. Governor DeSantis, his command and
Let's keep it
control
respectful,
style.
please. Let's keep it respectful. But go ahead,
Okay.
Alan.
With his command and control style, he's always on about, we don't want the federal government interference in states' rights, but then, what level of hypocrisy is that? Because then when it's him, he's going to do the same thing, right? It's like Tallahassee's the federal government of Florida. So hey, maybe Duval County needs to secede from Florida. We should become our own state.
All right, Alan. Thanks for the call. I don't see that happening. But I appreciate your thoughts. One final thought for you, Ben Frazier. You have blown up on social media overnight. You are going crazy, in particular on Twitter, where you had a few hundred followers yesterday. Now you've got over 20,000. A lot of eyes are on you. As an activist, what do you plan to do with that new visibility?
Well, the fact of the matter is, we need help in our fight against social injustice. Anyone wanting to support us should reach out to us at NorthsideCoalitionofJacksonville.com. That's NorthsideCoalitionofJacksonville.com. Our email address is NorthsideCoalition@gmail. We will continue to rally, continue to march, continue to demonstrate and protest until, in the words of the prophet Amos, justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We will march on until victory is won. We'd like to thank everybody on Twitter. Hundreds of people have been supporting us throughout the day and night.
Ben
Thank
Fraser.
you for your support.
Ben Fraser of the Northside Coalition of Jacks. Thanks for calling in. And you're listening to First Coast Connect on 89.9. Well, speaking of protests, tomorrow, January 6th, does, as a previous caller just said, mark the one-year anniversary of the deadly riot and attempted insurrection at the nation's capital. In a moment, we'll talk about Florida's outsized role in all of this. Claire Goforth has been covering the story for the Daily Dot. She'll join us shortly. But first, Chris Hand is with us. He's a government law attorney, founder, president of Hand Law, and author of 2 books about civics and government. Chris Hand, good morning.
Good morning, Melissa.
And as we look ahead to tomorrow's anniversary of January 6th, we want your calls. It's 549-2937. Chris Hand, there will be solemn observances tomorrow to mark the effort to overturn a free and fair election. And there is so much worry that January 6th didn't actually fail, that perhaps it was the first in what may be other attempts to overturn our system of government, and that they may yet be successful. What are your thoughts about this climate as we look ahead to the anniversary tomorrow and ongoing attempts in Florida and elsewhere to weaken or even overturn future elections?
Well, Melissa, I think part of the reason that, as you say, it is going to be such a solemn occasion is that I think large parts of the country are still in shock from what happened a year ago. Because obviously, let's call it for what it was. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't a demonstration. It wasn't a riot. It was an attempted coup, with participants attempting to overturn the results of, as you say, a free and fair election, a proper and valid vote count. So I think there's lingering concern. And, I think some of that concern kind of results in the way that Congress has conducted oversight following September the 6th. I remain very struck by the lack of bipartisanship in the investigation into January 6th and the lack of sort of a bicameral approach. There's just one House that's looking at it right now. And it's interesting to compare this. The last time the nation faced a major external attack, which was, of course, 9/11, there was a bipartisan independent commission that investigated the attack. And, led by my former boss and my co-author, Bob Graham, the Senate and House Intelligence Committees held their own joint bipartisan investigation. What's shocking is that in the aftermath of a major internal attack on the institutions of democracy, the House and Senate couldn't agree on a bipartisan bicameral investigation into that attack. Of course, one in which law enforcement officers lost their lives, more than 150 were injured, and attackers were trying to kill, harm, or arrest elected officials. So I think that's the feeling of shock that still exists today. And as you say, it continues to reverberate with concerns that January 6th was just the opening act, not the final act.
147 House Republicans, even after the deadly violence at the Capitol, voted not to certify the results of the election, including our local Congressman John Rutherford and one of our senators, Rick Scott. And 1 year on, a majority of those Republicans in Congress have really doubled down on that position. And so this is really a disturbing state of affairs, honestly, when so many Republicans incorrectly believe that the election was stolen. How do we continue as a country when we don't share the same reality, when we don't share the same set of facts?
Well, I think at the end of the day, always the best way to fight falsehood is through facts and through truth. And I think that's we're going to continue to watch the investigations that are happening into January 6th. Of course, there's a couple of different pieces of that, Melissa, as you know. One is a law enforcement side of that, investigations into those who participated in the January 6th coup attempt. Right already there have been, more than 700 coup participants who were charged for their involvement. 163 have pled guilty. 71 have received criminal sentences. National Public Radio did a very detailed breakdown of the work that's happening on the law enforcement side. But we're also going to, receive more facts coming out of the House Select Committee, which is investigating January the 6th. A lot of their work has been in private so far, collecting evidence, taking testimony, following up on leads they've received. But here in 2022, a lot of that work is now going to become public. The committee is expected to have public hearings sometime this year with a final report, maybe an interim report issued this summer, as the Washington Post recently reported, with a final report this fall. So we're going to have a lot of facts and a lot of evidence in 2022 as to exactly what happened, who was behind it, and what some of the threats to democracy are going forward. Those facts will be very important to taking action going forward as to how to stop something like January 6th from happening again. There are legislative solutions. There are other legal solutions as well. Actually, the Washington Post reported this morning that the Biden administration has been conducting simulations and exercises to enhance information sharing among federal agencies and try and head off something like this in the future. So there's still a lot to be learned and a lot of action that needs to be taken following those facts that are ascertained.
Tomorrow morning on the January 6th anniversary, we will be carrying live coverage from Washington on President Biden's remarks marking the solemn anniversary. Tomorrow afternoon, starting at 4 o'clock, there will be a January 6th candlelight vigil for democracy at Castillo San Marcos National Park in St. Augustine, part of a nationwide day of remembrance and action. Now, Chris mentioned Florida. The state of Florida is home to the most defendants charged in connection to the January 6th insurrection attempt. Reporter Claire Goforth, based here in Jacksonville, writes nationally for the Daily Dot, and she's been looking into a lot of elements of what happened on that day. Claire Goforth, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to talk to you. 7 deaths associated with the chaos at the Capitol, including a Trump supporter named Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed by police. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick suffered 2 strokes and passed away the next day. A number of officers died by suicide after January 6th. As you write about this, you found some really interesting information about the Trump administration's efforts to stay in power even though they had lost the election. What did you discover?
Well, the Trump administration was using, they had developed a plan that some conspiracy theorists are very strongly believed to have created, in which they were going to rely on a network of conspiracy theorists and very large influencers, people who you would just characterize as maybe not mainstream, but very well-known Republican voices on social media to put forward this false narrative that the election was stolen. They had a plan that they were going to do this over a 10-day period from December 27th, 2020 to January 6th, 2021, which would not only include the social media blitz, but also protests, most notably culminating in the Capitol riot, the failed insurrection. And what we found at the Daily Dot is that not only did they come up with this plan, but many of these far-right and more mainstream figures, they were echoing the same exact language that was used in that plan. And this goes to the highest level. Rudy Giuliani, former attorney for former President Trump, who was very intimately involved in these efforts to overturn the election, was listed as the lead point on this particular plan. So, you know, when we look at what happened last year on January 6th, we can't say that it was merely a group of people who were sort of lawless and on their own. This was really going to the very highest levels of the Trump administration in an attempt to subvert democracy.
5492937. So this astroturfing that you've found was ubiquitous across social media and other forms of media. And as we watch the new information, Claire, that's coming out of the January 6th committee, just yesterday it was learned that Fox host Sean Hannity had been texting back and forth with former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, begging the president to accept reality, to accept the results. How do you see the committee using some of the new information that's being released as they attempt to uncover the coup conspiracy and ultimately who should be held accountable?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I don't know, how some people who were involved in furthering this election lie, who were at the same time privately urging Donald Trump to concede defeat, how they can be found accountable, but there are certainly many people that will be held accountable as time goes on. I know that there are some lawsuits that police officers have filed against Trump, and there certainly are many defendants accused of furthering the riot and perhaps more to come. Is there an argument for potentially conspiracy here? I think that could be made. I think that the committee is going to be attempting to establish in very clear language that this was a mass conspiracy going to the highest levels in order to inform the American people, that what we saw on January 6th was not a fluke. It wasn't an isolated batch of people, but this was a widespread conspiracy in order to try to subvert democracy, just so that Trump could stay in power. It's going to be challenging, though, quite frankly. And I report so heavily on these conspiracy theorists and far-right people. They don't believe what their eyes showed them on January 6th. They don't believe that the election was free and fair, although it was. And so many audits have found this was fair. I mean, there is simultaneous to the vigil that is a commemorance of the January 6th insurrection.
If you
Go ahead.
If you believe the election was stolen, it wasn't. But if you believed that, you believed that you were engaged in a righteous crusade, that you were doing the right thing by storming the Capitol because you were there on a false belief, on a series of lies. Let's go to let's go to Rusty at the Beaches. Rusty, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, I would like to say that I think all of this in this age of social media, it all goes back to First Amendment, where everybody has a right to say their piece. I feel that everybody has that right, but perhaps not everyone should be heard. And when I say that, it's because there are no consequences for lying. You and I can lie to each other on the street, no consequences. I think if we lie in a business contract or something like that, there might be a consequence. When you're a public official or a radio host, and you get on the air and you tell known falsehoods, we know they're lies. All you're doing is, what would you say, alternate narrative or something you used the term earlier? But it's basically lying. And because we don't hold anyone responsible for these lies, it gets perpetuated daily, and we end up with Trump and a twisted idea of what America will become from the Republican Party.
Thanks, Rusty.
And thank you.
Thank you for that. Chris Hand, this really gets to the heart of the problem. These lies have led to nearly a third of the hundreds of Republicans around the country looking at running for statewide office this next cycle, either downplaying the January 6th attack or saying they don't believe Joe Biden was legitimately elected. That includes 10 candidates running for Secretary of State positions. Those are positions that could hold sway over elections in many states. And so in this climate, as the caller said, where lies have been told with impunity, leading to a violent and deadly coup attempt, and now ongoing efforts to subvert upcoming votes, and the perception that Congress will not hold the coup plotters at the highest levels accountable for their lies and the way they use those lies to spur people on to deadly violence. What do we need to do as a country to hold the liars really more accountable?
Well, we're going to see this, I think, in a couple of different ways as the kind of investigations and the reform efforts move forward. As Claire sort of alluded to, there, the January 6th committee, there's a couple of potential criminal referrals that could ultimately be made to the Justice Department out of this. One is the idea of an obstruction of an official congressional proceeding, but the other one is fraud. As a number of media outlets have reported, many millions of dollars have been raised based on these false claims of electoral malfeasance. So, to the caller's point, there could be actual criminal and or civil charges based on kind of the fraud of, suggesting that this wasn't a free and fair election and the money that's been raised on it. But I think to your point, Melissa, this is where some of the efforts at reform, kind of come in at the state level. Obviously, we've seen this in Florida, and the Brennan Center for Justice has, issued a report which shows that 19 states passed laws in 2021 making it harder to vote. And as we know, and as you've covered, Florida was one of those. But at the state and local level is an area of great concern for folks who are concerned about the impact of January 6th and what that might mean for the future of democracy. One of the major concerns, to what you were alluding to earlier, is, what happens in the future if, state and local elections officials refuse to certify the results.
That's the big concern. That's the big concern. Let me, if I could, get Claire on before we wrap you both up. Yes, certainly the laws that have been passed in a number of states have gotten a lot of attention, not being allowed to give out water to people standing in line and such. That's gotten a lot of heat. But the real concern is what happens, Claire Goforth, if we have an election and the loser is declared the winner because officials in a number of states just simply refuse to honor the results. The reason Joe Biden became president in 2020 is because key officials in a number of swing states, including Republican officials, held fast to their jobs. They counted the votes accurately and fairly. Some of them were hounded out of office because of it. This is the fear for the next election. What happens when officials don't accept the results and declare the loser the winner? That could happen.
Then we have a constitutional crisis on our hands. We could have two people declaring that they are the commander-in-chief, and this could be, the president, this could be the governor, this could be any office. And then I guess we would go to the courts in that situation. Do not mistake people out there listening. Like, this is a very serious matter, and it is extremely alarming that we're seeing people who have furthered the election lie running to hold positions of power over elections. And these individuals would have the opportunity to just say, well, these results are not valid, and this is the result that I want, so this is the result that it is. In which case, we could very well lose democracy as we know it. That does seem quite extreme, but we had a lawless group of people who descended on Congress and had elected a gallows outside with the intention of hanging Vice President Pence because he intended to certify the election. Just think about that. This is a very serious thing, and it's not going away. January 6th was a horrible event in our nation's history, but it's not over now. We still have people furthering election lies. We still have people who are running for these positions of power over elections across the country who think that if they want this result, then that's the result that it should be. You need to be involved on the local level and on all the levels of government. You need to be out there voting. People need to be running for office, and elected officials, including our own elected officials here, need to be responsible and stop furthering these election lies just because it plays well with a small part of the base who is hyper engaged and gives you donations and votes. You need to be better than that.
Chris Hand, Claire Goforth, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you both. A quick break, and when we come back, a little good news for your midweek. We could use it, including new trends from fashion to food for right here in the 904. All inside the pages of Edible. Don't go away. Well, it's a new year, so that means plenty of new trends in everything from fashion to food. Lauren Titus is editor at Edible Northeast Florida, and she's on the line with a look at what we may find ourselves eating and wearing this year, among other things. Hey, Lauren, good morning.
Good morning, Melissa. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So you're looking at top trends, including local ones. What's on your list?
All sorts of great things to be eating in the new year. We're definitely seeing some trends given some of the challenges that we've faced through the pandemic. It looks like some of those supply chain disruptions and labor shortages are going to continue. So we're going to see restaurants start to, or continue really, to adapt to some of those food shortages and labor shortages by, unfortunately, reducing hours and days that they're open. But also streamlining their menus to really highlight what they do best and what the customer favorite dishes are. So that's pretty exciting to see in face of the challenges. Restaurants are still creative and innovative in how they serve the public.
Maybe there's a silver lining to that. Now, you're going to be writing in Edible's new issue that the ingredient of the year is mushrooms, including psilocybin mushrooms, or what we might also call shrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. Tell us about this.
Yes. Well, I haven't personally tried psychedelic mushrooms, but I have eaten plenty of fabulous mushroom dishes. And one of the exciting things about having mushrooms taking more of a center stage is we have a couple of local growers in Northeast Florida where you can easily pick up some beautiful varieties of fungi, including Sun and Sky Mushrooms, who comes out to the Beaches Big Local Market on Saturdays, and Erie Fungi at the St. Augustine Amp Market on Saturdays. And if you really get into mushrooms and you want to try your hand at growing them at home, Eat Your Yard Jack has workshops periodically to help get you started growing some different varieties of mushrooms, including shiitake mushrooms, which are a great meat alternative, which ties into another trend that we're going to continue to see grow is shifting to more of plant-based diets. Folks are looking for alternatives to meat products, which also ties into food supply shortages because of some of the chain disruptions of getting meat and pork to restaurants and grocery stores. So it's interesting how these trends are kind of feeding into each other.
Yeah, I made that switch recently, and I highly recommend going plant-based wherever you can. You'll feel better. It's good for your body, your mind, and the planet. Okay, now you have a drinks issue coming out in January. Dry January is, going to be a thing this month. So we're talking about alcoholic and non-alcoholic options for the First Coast, yes?
Yes, absolutely. You're in luck if you are trying to reduce your intake of alcoholic beverages because there are just so many more options these days for getting drinks with friends and coworkers. It doesn't have to be based around alcoholic drinks anymore. There's plenty of coffee shops, of course, but also juice bars, tea shops, and then another spot that we're highlighting is a lovely and tranquil tea ceremony over at Haka Kitchen, formerly known as House of Leaf and Bean. You can set up a time to join Wen over there and just have a lovely hour or two of enjoying different varieties of Chinese tea.
Yeah, Haka Kitchen. If you're into plant-based food and delicious food, check out Haka Kitchen at Beach in San Pablo. Okay, the flavor of the year, Lauren Titus of Edible, you say it is what?
Hibiscus.
Hibiscus.
It's about time.
Why
Yes.
hibiscus?
Well, hibiscus is finally getting a moment to shine, even though it's been around for a long time. It's been, a popular ingredient in Mexican cuisine for many, many years. But the Roselle hibiscus, if you've ever had red finger tea, the red comes from the Roselle hibiscus plant. And that's also called Florida cranberry because of its tartness, and you can easily substitute it in cranberry recipes. And then the fun thing about hibiscus is, and it's different from the ornamental hibiscus, this is an edible hibiscus. So you can grow this in your yard and have enough hibiscus leaves and flower petals to enjoy for tea beverages, for making sauces, and all sorts of wonderful dishes with hibiscus. It's a lot of fun to grow, and you'd be surprised how much you can glean from just one lovely bush.
There's a lot more inside the pages of this month's Edible Northeast Florida Top Trends for 2022. Lauren Titus, always good to talk to you. Thanks for sharing all the delicious details with us. Have a great January.
Thanks, Melissa. You too.
Okay, a quick break. And in a moment, we're going to take a look at what's good all around town this first Wednesday of the new year, including what's happening this month at Sunray Cinema in 5 Points. You won't want to miss that. Don't go away. You're listening to First Coast Connect on 89.9. We'll be right back.
Haka Kitchen, a new restaurant from the House of Leaf and Bean, offers plant-based Chinese countryside cuisine made from fresh, organic ingredients, paired with hand-picked teas and fine wines. Info at lovehakakitchen.com.
Lee & Kate's Glass, family-owned and operated for 95 years. Lee & Kate's Glass is your source for upgrading your home's glass, from shower doors and mirrors to windows and tabletops. Learn more at leeandkatesglass.com.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Law Firm. I'm Wayne Hogan. The Move Over Law protects police, fire, EMS, utility, and sanitation personnel by requiring drivers to move over and slow down for their vehicles. Learn more at waynehogan.law.
The Jacksonville Music Experience brings you the beautiful noise emerging from Northeast Florida. Profiles, music reviews, playlists, concert recommendations, and more. JME turns your ear on the local scene. Visit jacksmusic.org to dig in.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. Investigators in Colorado are still trying to figure out how a grass fire erupted last week outside of Boulder. It was whipped up by ferocious winds and destroyed more than 1,000 homes. We'll speak with the mayor of Superior, Colorado about the effort to clean up and move on in the new year next time on Here and Now.
Today at 2 on WJCT News 89.9.
The Senate Majority Leader says it's time to change something he previously promised to protect, the filibuster.
We're pushing anything that will get us the John Lewis Act passed and signed into law.
Chuck Schumer is promising a vote in weeks, but can Democrats win over enough of their own to pass a bill that protects voting rights? That's next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. It's the first Wednesday of the new year, so that means it's time for our look at what's good across town this week. Let's start with Sunray Cinema at 5 Points. They just celebrated their 10th anniversary and have a lot planned for the new year. Co-owner Shayna Davis-Massett is on the line to tell us what's screening at Sunray. Hey, Shayna.
Hey, how are you, Melissa?
I'm great, thanks. So you celebrated your 10-year anniversary last month. You've got a lot of improvements at Sunray and a new drive-through, too. Is that opening up soon?
Yes, our drive-in is getting to
Drive-in,
open.
I meant to say, yes.
You are not the only one. It's everybody. We're all learning because for so many of us, we've been to a drive-through much more recently than a drive-in.
That's
eh?
right.
So it's just kind of on the tip of our tongue, but we'll get drive-in back on the tip of our tongue. And we've certainly been hearing a lot of people calling and asking about it. So you're in good company.
So you have a lot happening, including the new drive-in.
We do.
What
we
else
do.
is on
So-
the table at Sunray this year?
Oh, so over 10 years, right, we went from being a single screen to a two-screen. That two-screen theater is still open and kicking and showing movies every single day of the year. Then we've got the drive-in opening. It's our 10-year anniversary, right? But the Ramona Flea Market, did you know, is their 50-year anniversary?
Excellent.
So, isn't that cool? I had no idea. I've been going there for years, but not 50. And so they are the location for our drive-in screen and our drive-in projection trailer, which is going to be showing drive-in movies starting. We're aiming for this weekend, which is very exciting. So that's growing. You mentioned some updates at the theater. We're always making it better. And people walk in and they say, this place is perfect. And I say, well, we're actually working on making it a little closer to perfect. And so some upgrades to our sound system have happened. Some upgrades to our screen have happened in the theater. And then it's a strange time to be a movie theater in America. You might have noticed. And anywhere really is the truth. And so we just kind of watch, and I think the next 10 years are going to include some turns that we didn't anticipate taking. We've really been aiming to grow outside of the building that we started in, and if that looks like lease takeovers of existing theaters that we would have never imagined before because of the state of the industry, that's where we're at.
Check it out, everyone, at sunraycinema.com. Check out their new drive-in at 7059 Ramona Boulevard. And Shayna, what's this about the Pizza Cave?
I'll tell you about the Pizza Cave. It feels very much like a cave without the icky wet parts that you might not enjoy if you were eating your pizza in a Mother Nature created cave. Ours is built out somewhere between Scooby-Doo and Fraggle Rock in terms of vibe and cleanliness. Our pizza is just fantastic, and we're so proud of it. One thing we've always wanted to do is pizza by the slice, not viable in a movie theater, but in a pizza cave, it's fantastic. So we have our big old slices in the cave, and then also our full menu that people have been ordering in the movie theater for 10 years. It's now been a whole year of ordering our full menu in a cave, which is very exciting.
Go see a movie at Sunray and check out their drive-in on Ramona Boulevard. Shayna Davis-Massett, here's to 10 more years. Thanks so much.
Hey, indeed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. More good news for your week. From now until January 10th, the YMCA is offering new members a $0 join fee. You can join for free, a free month of January. If you join by January 10th online or in person with the promo code January 2022, you pay nothing until February. Check it out, folks. Well, the most wonderful time of the year has been extended because yesterday the Girl Scouts of Gateway Council officially kicked off their cookie season. That's right. Look for those Girl Scout cookie booths, and you can go online through their digital cookie online platform. Support local Girl Scout entrepreneurs. Buy their favorite cookies starting this week. You can even have your favorites shipped directly to your door. My favorite, as everybody knows, are the Thin Mints. When I was a Girl Scout, I sold a lot of those. You have to keep them in the freezer, folks. That's law. But if you like Samoas or Tagalongs or even the new cookie they're coming out with this year, it's called Adventurefuls. You can buy those. Yes, it's Girl Scout cookie time. Have fun. Well, if you've got some extra Christmas cash burning a hole in your pocket and need something to do with it, why don't you support a local business? Find one anywhere in town. Here's one suggestion for the week: Elizabeth Sarah Collections in Jacksonville Beach. The shop features handcrafted jewelry created by artist Elizabeth Walker, and even better, they're having a sale today and tomorrow. They're located at 1003 3rd Street North in Jacksonville Beach. For details, follow Elizabeth on Instagram or go to elizabethsarahcollections.com. And hey, if you've got some good news you'd like us to add to our weekly Wednesday menu, as always, just drop us a line. And thanks so much for listening. That is our show this morning. We want to thank our amazing production team: Senior Producer Heather Schatz, Director Josh Torres, Associate Producer Catherine Hobbs, Station Manager David Luckin, always doing the work, along with the incredible Jessica Palumbo, our Editorial Director, and Randy Roguski, our News Editor, along with everyone here at WJCT News. If you've got feedback, we always appreciate it. Drop us a line to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. We really appreciate your feedback, folks. I'm Melissa Ross, and we will be right back here again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Excuse me, no, we won't. We will be carrying live special coverage of the January 6th observances in Washington. Make sure to listen to our NPR coverage of tomorrow's J6 anniversary. We'll return the following morning. Have a great day, everyone.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
North Florida TPO, proud sponsor of WJCT's First Coast Connect, bringing to the community innovation in transportation.